Still very fluid right now. We wanted to touch base with one of our local leaders. So joining me now via Zoom is Washington Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've got a lot of topics that we want to touch upon with you. First off, the primary elections. We know the results often take days to come in as the ballots arrive in the elections offices throughout the week. What's your reaction to the numbers that we've seen so far? It seems as though we may have had a bigger turnout than anticipated in some cases.
I think that's right. I think we've had a bigger turnout. I think there was no red wave as was predicted. I think we are going to keep Dr. Kim Schreier in the House, the only female pediatrician that we have in the House, the only female doctor we have in the House. She's been doing a fabulous job, and I think she's well positioned to win. And I also think that, Senator Patty Murray, I know there was a lot of talk about this potentially being a tough race for her. I know she's never going to take anything for granted. She's been working very hard to make sure she reaches everybody and people know what she's been able to do for Washington State. But I feel very good about the numbers there as well. You know, in terms of Jamie Herrera Butler and Dan Newhouse, they were both principled in voting to impeach the president based on what they saw. And I really have to tip my hat to them for that. Republicans who think that they can, who are election deniers and big lie supporters and think that they can push them out, it's going to be very hard, in part because of our top two primary. So I think it looks good for them to stay in as well. There aren't many left of those Republicans who voted for impeachment. And I think that, that is an unfortunate thing about the Republican Party, that they don't even want to support people who tell the truth in their own party.
I also want to get your take on some big news today. Abortion rights activists won a huge victory in the red state of Kansas, rejecting an amendment that said there was no constitutional right to an abortion in the state. What is your take on this?
Well, I really think this is a huge deal, a huge victory for women across the country, for pregnant people across the country. The reality is, I think that the extreme Republican faction that's been trying to strip this constitutional right away from people based on the Supreme Court's stripping of the constitutional right have completely underestimated the fury and the wrath of independents, Democrats, and Republicans across the country who believe that this is a settled right, and they don't want to have the government in our bedrooms trying to make these decisions. They don't want 5 Supreme Court justices who completely overstep and are out of step with the country to be making these decisions. So if you look at the Kansas numbers, the thing I thought was interesting is that there was massive Democratic turnout, number one. There was also a very strong turnout of what they call unaffiliated voters. These are voters who aren't affiliated with either party, aren't necessarily voting on other races, but came out solely so they could vote on this ballot measure. But even if you add those two numbers together, there's still more votes that came in against this measure to strip constitutional rights to abortion away. And about 20% of Republicans, at least in the numbers I saw last night, also voted with Democrats and independents. So again, this is not partisan. It's just about the ability to have freedom to make choices about our own bodies.
And I want to switch gears now to the Justice Department and the criminal investigation into the January 6th riot at the Capitol. A great deal is unfolded in these nationally televised hearings. The committee showed videos of rioters trying to get to the House chamber. We've all seen that. You were there that day. And I remember seeing those images of you inside the chamber, visibly shaken up along with everyone else. What was it like for you to see those images again as it played out during the hearings? What went through your mind?
It was difficult. I think that particularly the moments when they showed images of that day, and at the last hearing, when I was in the room for about 3 of the hearings. I watched every single one of them, but I was present for 3 of them in the room. The last hearing where they actually showed me trapped in the gallery was very difficult. I think I wasn't expecting it. Maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. And it just really did bring back to me the horror of that day, the horror of what I felt in terms of the threat on my own life, but also the threat on our democracy. And it was very difficult to watch. But I have to say that the January 6th committee has just done a stupendous job of putting all the puzzle pieces together such that there is nothing missing now for everyone to be able to see that Donald Trump fueled the insurrection. He actually incited the insurrectionists to go there. He wanted them to be armed. He wanted them to hang Mike Pence. And he did absolutely nothing to stop the insurrection, actually to the contrary. So I think all of that has been put together, and I'm also glad to see the Justice Department is now picking some of these pieces up as well. And I really hope that they move quickly to hold Donald Trump and every single one of the people that were involved in this accountable, because the country cannot heal and we can't protect our democracy unless that happens.
We know that the committee will reconvene in September as new evidence and witnesses continue to pour in. What can we expect to see during these hearings? What can we expect to learn? And what are you anticipating?
Well, I spoke to Liz Cheney about this on the floor right before leaving DC last week. And what she told me is that the committee has received so much new information because of the hearings, because people watch the hearings, and actually they're drawn to be courageous and to come forward when they watch somebody like Cassidy Hutchinson or some of the other people who have testified. And so she said they are sifting through that information to see what rises to the level of bringing it forward, what fills any empty holes that might be there, what provides additional sort of testimony to points that they have already made. And she really didn't reveal to me anyway yet what those hearings would be about. But I think that they're continuing to gather information and continuing to build what is already a tremendously strong case against Donald Trump. And she's been very clear about this. As a Republican, she and Adam Kinzinger have been very clear that Donald Trump is at the center of this. He incited the insurrection. He wanted to keep power despite a fair and free election that elected Joe Biden as president. But he wanted to stay in power, and this was his way to do it.
All right, well, it will be interesting to see how this continues to play out into September. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, we appreciate your time and your insight today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the voters of the 7th District for supporting me with such a phenomenal vote in my election.